Ever since I started messing around with scale models and dioramas and such, one of the aspects of that is that I have enjoyed making my own colors. Uh, you know, Buying it, where's the fun in that? And I mean, you can buy it. Just about every color in the rainbow plus a whole bunch more are available in just about any paint manufacturer you can think of. One of my favorites is Vallejo, and I've got a bunch of them. But and model paints are awesome. If you need to make a spot of rust look like a spot of rust, this is your go-to. You don't want to mess around with craft paint like I'm going to do today. But for larger surfaces, craft paint's fantastic and is a lot cheaper, and I think just more fun to play with because it's a lot cheaper. You're not uh, risking wasting a bunch of paint messing around with craft paint. So I've developed a bit of a system on how I go about matching paint. So if I've got a color, well, for instance, um, this tuna boat green I made for um, the tuna boat build is running low. I would need to make some more for the next project. If I don't know, there might be enough in there for one more, but just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to use one of the other techniques I developed well, for when I was painting this little guy. So I needed to get the uniform colors correct, and the stuff that was just on the shelf was not quite where I wanted it to be. Just the authenticity was, from my eye, was just not quite there. So I downloaded an image and extracted the colors I wanted from that image. And I'm gonna show you how I go about matching the paint to the image. The process I use involves color wheel. Now, these are available just about anywhere: Michael's, Hobby Lobby, Amazon for sure, and they're relatively inexpensive for the value they give you. The Also, the second thing I do is I use a bit of free software if I need to extract color from a photograph, and this is the method I'm going to start showing you today. So, but again, you can do this with anything. You can just lay it down beside it, like I need to the whatever, and just lay it there, and you can work right directly off of it. But what I like to do, and I find more accurate, is I am going to cover at least this part of it right here with some clear packing tape, so that when I touch the paint to the paper, it doesn't just soak right in. I want it to sit there, and so I can get sort of it's faster. The clear packing tape has got a little bit of a shine to it, and the wet paint is going to have a bit of a shine to it. So it sort of just helps bring those values closer together. And then when you think you've got it, then you can test it on the paper over here to see if it's a very perfect match or not. So I'll set that up and show you how that works. So this is the image, and where's the packing tape? What I do is just take packing tape. It's just clear packing tape. Boy, I hate that noise. Just overlap it slightly so paint can't get under it. You can do this with just putting the paint on a piece of paper and then putting some tape over top of that. That works equally as well. Or just, whatever you're trying to match, you'll be fine. You'll be able to do it. So now, how do I start? I start by cheating. I take the color I'm going to match, and we're going to use this one for reference. And then I'll take a look at my stash of paints and find, okay, what have I got that's kind of close to that? And say we're looking at here we've got 3 different browns, and looks like just visually, and I'm seriously just don't put a lot of thought into this. Just whichever one jumps out at you as being the closest, grab it. So there we are. We're looking at raw sienna, and then get rid of the other guys out of the way. So now we're going to be mixing in here. If I'm making up a batch that I need enough for a good amount, like for an entire project or 3, I'll mix in one of these cups here. These are 1 ounce cups, and let me tell you, when you're mixing paint, you can end up with a lot of paint in a hurry. So you start out with less than you think you need. Then you're probably going to end up with more than you thought you had. So we're going to start with the raw sienna. And it's going to put a dab in the middle. Again, just for demonstration purposes, I'm not going to use a lot. The volume doesn't matter. This technique works on whether you're doing a dab of paint or a gallon of paint. It doesn't matter. So we've got our raw sienna, and just for comparison, and this is how the tape works. Take a little bit of that, and we're going to just put it right up here. And you can see how far away that is. And I put it both on the white and on the color itself, all right? So you've got a little bit of a lighter background in this. It just lets you, it just helps you visualize things better. So now, how does the color wheel come into place? How do we use the color wheel for this? What we're working with is our 2 colors. So let me make this a little bigger, just for demonstration purposes. So now we've got the 2 colors we're starting with. So we've got our starting point and our ending point. And so we need to sort of very quickly analyze the 2 colors to see where they're at and what's in between the 2 of them. So starting with our end color, we're going to look at, on the outside of the wheel, we've got our red, yellows, and blues. And we're looking on here to see which color is just right off the gate closest to the end color. And it appears to be yellow. And then our secondaries, we can go a little further, and looks like we're probably even closer with yellow-orange than we are with just straight yellow or straight orange. You can see I've done this a time or 2. And now, so we've got that. So we know we know this side is more in the yellow. It's got some yellow in it. So now we're looking at what to do to get even closer. And if we're looking at between adding black, so that's how the inside works. So you've got your little windows. So we're using the little windows now. So using the little windows, we can show what it would look like if you add red, show what it looks like if you add yellow, blue, adding white, or adding black, right? So now we look like if we're adding white to the yellow-orange, looks like that's even closer than the yellow-orange by itself. So now we know our red-orange is pretty close to the raw sienna. And then we start looking at what we're adding to that. All right, so if we're adding white, adding yellow, looks like adding yellow pushes this more towards the orange. But if we take the orange and add yellow, then we're still not quite there. The yellow-orange makes yellow, and then we're adding white to these. So orange adding white. So that's also pretty close. So what we're looking at is we've got the raw sienna and then our end color. The difference between these 2 is yellow. So to get this, closer to this, we're going to start by adding yellow as a lightener. So we're going to, instead of lightening it with white, we're going to lighten it with yellow because we need to push this closer to yellow. So that's where we start. We just for reference, lay that up there out of the way and start with adding some yellow. There we are. For paint mixing of really any kind, I like to use a small brush. It helps get paint off the bottom and make certain everything's mixed, but it really needs to be a small brush. You don't want anything that's going to soak up a lot of paint. You want it to be just, a small brush so that it doesn't hold a lot of paint and you're able to scrape the bottom more successfully than you would if you were using like a toothpick or something. So we've got our two colors, and now we're going to start adding yellow here. That is one addition of yellow. All right, one addition of yellow. And let's check our differences. You can see just that one addition of yellow, we're already a lot closer than we were. So we're going to go back and we're going to add even more yellow. Now at this point, you're off to the races. You're going to make an addition, right? Then you're going to check it. You can see there are two additions of yellow, and we're already getting a lot closer than what we were. But we're not quite there yet. So then we need to go with some more yellow. But maybe not quite as much as the last one. Not really there yet. One more. So what I'm looking for first is the value. Now, if you're looking at your wheel, your value is how dark it is. Like, if you're looking for the value of orange, you're looking at somewhere probably between 3 and 4 here on the wheel. The yellow orange would probably be between 4 and 5. The yellow would be somewhere between 6 and 7. No, actually, I would say probably closer to 7 and 8. If you're chasing both the value and the hue at the same time, you're going to get lost. So I recommend only starting with the value. You want to try and get the darkness of this pretty close to the same. You want to lighten this to where it's the same as this. So we're looking at, see where we're at, and we see we're still a fair ways off. This is still much darker than that. But I think we're pretty close on the yellow now. So I think we need to switch to white, and we'll be back to the yellow and probably some other colors as well. As you're mixing this and these your little samples, you're going to notice this color actually changes right before your very eyes. You're going to see colors in here that you didn't see before you started. Like for me, I can already see green in here. So there's, but green is a darkener, is a darker color. So we want to look to get our value right first, and then we can start working on a little bit of the green. I think we've gone about as far as we can with the yellow just for the moment. So we're going to come back with some white. Again, looking at the amount of paint you've got, be mindful that you don't run away and end up with instead of a puddle, you end up with I don't know what, a cup. All right, so there's some white. Clean down our sides, get everything incorporated, and then check. So yeah, so that's even closer still. I think more white. That's what we need. And check it again. All right. So looking at it now, you can see where we started, and then adding yellow to here, and then starting with some white. We're a lot closer than we were when we started. Okay, we're to here. Where do we go now? So we've got these values are pretty close. Um, if you're looking at your wheel, we'll slide this on here and show you what we do there. So if you're looking at your wheel, all right, we're trying to find how dark are these. Looks like the end color is somewhere between a 7 and an 8, while the mixed color is probably closer to a 9. Yeah, somewhere between 8 and 9. So we're really close to the value. So we'll come back and add one more addition of white, and then we can start chasing the hue. All right, so now let's see where we're at. I think we're pretty close now. So now we're looking at our two colors, and we're still closer to the yellow, but as I'm looking at this, I'm starting to see some green in there, right? So as I'm zooming around here, so I think it's a little grayer and a little greener. So we're going to start by adding green. And again, this is a cheat, right? Because green is not one of your primary colors. Green is a mix between blue and yellow, right? So yellow, green, green. You could mix yourself up some green paint on the side and add that, or you could just add some blue to it. But since I'm seeing green, I want to add green. Again, this is cheating. So instead of trying to match the green in here using blue, we're just going to add green straight to it. Again, we're cheating. And looking at the different greens I have, I've got a couple here. I've got a darker green, Christmas green, and then I've got a one that's old ivy, folk art. And I think the old ivy is closer to where I want to go. So again, this is very subject. You're looking at these going, what's next? And just looking at what you have and working off of that. Now the green, I put way too much green out here. We're not going to need nearly that much. So we're going to start with about that much green. That may be too much already. So we may be coming back with some more yellow. Yeah, that was too much. And we've darkened it again. But as I'm mixing it, I think we're just visually from here to there, I think we're even closer than we were. Right? So that's with the green added. So now we need to go back to the yellow because we had too much green, so we need to push it back towards the yellow. And this is the chase. But instead of just guessing where you're going, we use the color wheel to get an idea of where we need to go. Just how you get there is up to you. Back to the white. You see how much white I'm having to add to compensate for that little bit of green. That little bit of green darkened it quite considerably. So now we need to chase back towards the right value. Now let's check and see where we're at. Okay, so let's take a look at this. You can see color-wise, I think we were closer here than we are here. The green helped, but now I'm seeing gray here. Not as much green now. I'm seeing gray. So I think we need black. Now black, like the green, the black is very strong, and it doesn't take but a drop to get. I mean, I could completely blow. If I added all that black to that, that would completely blow this thing out. So we're going to do it in very, very tiny increments. You can see that's, I don't know if that shows up on camera, but you can see that's fairly dramatic color change right there. Not so much the value, but the color change. And that's with a little bit of black. All right. So where do we need to go now? I think more white for a minute. Now, I'm stopping more frequently than I normally would doing this. More white. You can see, compared to how much paint I started with, how much we have now. There's a nice little puddle of paint there. If this was model paint, we would have already used about $5 worth of paint. Also, as the puddle grows, you need to add more and more paint to get the result you want. So a little dab of the lighter colors is not going to go nearly as far as it did when you first started. Let's see where we're at now. I can't tell much difference. One thing you can do if the amount of paint you're making is getting away from you is just stop and take some of it out. We need to add more white. Maybe even some more yellow. So we'll go straight in with white. Now let's see where we're at. See, we were closer down here, weren't we? I think one more additional white and then maybe back to the green. And you want to creep up on these guys. You don't want to just dump a whole bunch of paint in and go. So we may need to actually come back with the original. Darken it with that. I don't think black's going to get us where we want to go, and we've gone too far green. All right. So the original color, I'm going to add a drop or two of that. Right. Just see where that goes. All of this is trial and error, and you just need to play with it until you get where you want to go. I think we're going to do that one more time, and then I think we might be pretty close. 2 drops. Whoop, I went 3. Damn. See, that's why you don't do that. If I can take some of that back out. No, it doesn't seem like it, but I think from the camera, but I think it's very close. So when you think you've got when you think you're really close, this is what this side is for. So we've come all the way around with the different additions of yellow, white, green, black, white, yellow, right? And I think I've got a fairly close match, and I want to test that to see just how close I am. So we've got the original over here. This is the color I'm trying to match. So we come over, clean our brush off. So make sure we get true paint color out of here, and then take a dab and put it on the model. Put it on the paper. All right, just a little dab will do you. Now, it's not matching, but also it's not dry. So when these paints dry, they dry a little darker than they are when they're wet. So now, when we look at it, that's very close. And we're almost there. I believe if we add a little more white, that we're going to be even closer, maybe even a dash of yellow. All right, we'll start with a little dab of yellow. About 4 drops of white. Now, if this was just trying to match for a model that I wanted to match for, purposes of realism, I think this would be more than close enough. If you held this up to a photograph, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But just for demonstration purposes, I'm going through what I would do if I needed to match this color to a bottle of the same color. So I'm trying to match liquid paint to liquid paint and not dry paint to a photograph. All right, so I'm going to look here. I know on the paper, that doesn't look like it doesn't look very close, but on the model, let's go down here this time. So now, I think you can see those are both very, very close. What did I add there? I added white and yellow. Now, again, just for precision, we're going to go with black. That little drop of black dried up. Let's add a fresh drop. Again, that's just almost nothing. Almost nothing. And that's a fair amount of paint right there. Yeah, I think that's it. But we're going to test it again just to make certain. Come over here this time. You can see how close that is on those three. I mean, it's just, again, it's a matter of of preference and subjectivity. And that's pretty much it. That's how I go from needing a color to matching a color using color wheel. Because, cheating. I'm all about processes that are simplified. Like, as long as you understand the primary colors and what comes of those when you add those together, include with your blacks and your whites, then you can match just about any color. This isn't perfect either. You're going to have to practice. The first couple of times I did this, I needed I needed just a little bit of paint. I needed like that much paint, and ended up with that much paint. So it's just be willing to stop, scrap it, and start over. You may need to do that a time or two before you get to where you feel competent in doing this. So that's it. That's how I go about matching colors. It's I'm not going to say a simple process, but it's one that's easy to learn, and with some visual aids, you too can do this. It's not that hard, but it does take practice, and the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. The more the colors, you're going to see the colors more. I don't know what's the word I'm looking for here. You're just going to have to trust me. You're going to get good at it the more you do it. And it's just sort of the way doing stuff works. I mean, also, this is a hobby, so don't stress out if you get it wrong. Dump it, start over. I probably went through a lot of paint to figure out this process, and hopefully my errors will save you from doing the same. So, as always, thank you so much for hanging out with me, and go make something or paint something, as the case may be. Thanks for watching.